Let's go for it.
Right. Good morning, good evening, everybody. I am Mark from Two Cents Rugby. I am here with Rich, the rugby analyst. Rich, I know it's getting pretty late in the evening where you are. It's still my morning. I've just dropped the kids off. We've seen one test so far. How are you feeling? Can you hear me, Rich? I promise we were just talking before. You guys let me know if you can hear me. Hello?
Yeah, feeling good. Thanks for having me, Mark. Good to be here. A bit late, but it's not too bad, to be fair. No, crazy test, wasn't it? Really hard to know how to kind of draw clear conclusions when there was so much. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's just a bit delayed.
I can hear you, Mark.
Seems like we've got a pretty long delay, so by the time you
I
get
can
this
hear you.
question, you will hopefully be able to answer it. Yeah, first test is done and dusted, so I will ask you, and you'll get this in about 30 seconds. Um, I'll ask you for just, I guess, general thoughts on the game. Oh, and Rich has just dropped off. I swear, guys, we were having a chat right before we went live and there was no delay whatsoever. So I don't know what's going on. I'll take him off the stream and add him back in a second while we try to work out those difficulties. But yeah, you guys have all seen my review on the game if you were watching. I've gone back and had a look at a few other things since then, like Watson's old tackle on Watson's tackle on Billy. That one I have added back. Here we go. He's back. Maybe. Rich, have I got you back now?
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, there we go. I think we had like a 30-second delay before, which was probably not that kind of
Yeah, I think the internet's
dangerous.
okay here, so
Okay, good. Right, so we were getting your
we'll
thoughts
give it
on the
another
game,
go.
sir.
Yeah, just a crazy game. So much good and bad from both sides. It's hard to draw clear conclusions depending on what half you look at. So, I mean, it depends. Where do you want to start?
I mean, I guess we'll start at the beginning. The box, I thought, came out of the blocks really absolutely firing. They were all over the Lions guys. They were causing areas. The Lions were maybe a little bit the masters of their own misfortune at times. You know, like I'm thinking of Cowan Dickey's quick throw to Sutherland, which was just rushed and not straight. But yeah, first half, start there.
Well, the Bucks made them panic, didn't they? They started playing that quick pace passing game, offloading game that we saw in the warm up games, and it just wasn't going anywhere. And the problem was they hadn't won the kicking game, they hadn't won the set piece game or any of that before they did it. So they kind of got a bit excited really, and then when it wasn't working, they started panicking, and you saw some of the line outs, and the Box were just smashing them basically, and they kind of were not fortunate to go in only 9 points down, but the game wasn't gone, and they finally got themselves together and realised they might actually have to play some physical rugby, some kicking rugby, and luckily it worked. To be honest, it was a fair bit of fortune as well in the comeback, but the change up in tactics seriously worked. And what was bizarre is the box seemed to melt in the second half. I really don't know what happened there. Don't know if you can shed any light on why you think that was.
I can't help but wonder if some of it was just match fitness. Like, I know they've had a really disrupted prep. These guys have been in their hotel rooms, and I mean, you could make arguments that, look, Argentina went and beat the All Blacks after spending extended periods in their homes and hotel rooms, so there's not really an excuse, but they did just seem to run out of gas to a degree. I do feel like they will be better with this game being under the belt, but I mean, I looked at the possession and territory stats, which are always, you can kind of take them with a grain of salt at times, but the Box went from 57% possession to 40% from half to half. So they clearly just, couldn't get their hands on the ball and were having to kind of suck in the big ones, as we would kind of say over here. Is that the kind of thing you think they can fix in 1 week's time? Because fitness is not necessarily an easy turnaround.
I don't know. It's interesting because the minute their kicking game stopped working, and then the bomb squad came on and didn't have the impact they wanted. I mean, that was it really. That was all their ideas gone. I mean, the Lions, to their credit, they have a couple of ways of playing that they showed in that game. They can try and spread the ball around, but then when they mixed it tight in the maul, it really worked. So the Lions had the plan B, and it didn't look like the Box did. Like you said, fitness could well have played a big part in that. But, I mean, actually, what's weird is the Box try actually came from them finally trying to spread the ball. Pollard tried to spread the ball and did it really badly.
Yeah,
but then the Lions,
ground, right?
Yeah, then all three Lions missed the ball, missed Peter Steph Toy, and they score. So actually going to their plan B really badly actually worked, but that's just a fluke in a way.
It has been one of the big criticisms of the Springboks, and I mean the Springboks have been getting it for a while. Like when they were playing in the Rugby Championship, when Rassie first took over, there was a lot of box kicking and a lot of fans kind of expressing some discontent with the amount of kicking that they do. But I mean, during the World Cup, obviously that discontent kind of switched off because the results were there. Now that we've had this result, the gripes about the amount of kicking is back. And I mentioned to you when we were just about to get started, the South African wingers, between the two of them, 5 runs, 22 run meters, not a single defender beaten. Something's not right there, surely.
It didn't look like they had any starter plays really set up. Those clever plays weren't there. I mean, they haven't had a huge amount of game time, but they have had training time. I'm surprised they hadn't had some moves that really worked Colby into space or used the centres properly. It was, that was a bit puzzling, to be honest. I mean, Colby must have been just twiddling his thumbs, waiting to be, maybe they were just relying on the ball just to fall into his hands through some kick chase or some kick return or, turnover. But they just didn't seem to have a plan to use him properly. So, yeah, I think that's a valid criticism.
Now, you mentioned earlier when you were just kind of starting off that you said there's a fair bit of fortune with the Lions and their road to victory in that second half. Now, you might have to elaborate on that a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the Lions were the better team in the second half, but they did get some, 50-50s from the ref, let's say. They did get some bounces of the ball. I mean, sometimes those high balls really are a little bit 50-50 when both players are chucking hands up in the air. So, I mean, you take it, but both teams are surely going to be better next week. They're surely going to be more accurate, and you'd hope there'll be less reliance on the luck in a way. So, there was a fair bit of luck that, and the Lions, they really tried to throw it away a few times as well, and they just got away with it. So sometimes that happens, and you take it when it can. But hopefully they'll be less reliant on luck next week.
I mean, when I watched the game the first time, some of the 50-50s, maybe I thought that's kind of fair. They kind of balance each other out. Like, I mean, there's the Villy LaRue no try, where he's level with Lecanio Arm going down the wing, and the TMO has a look at it and decides that no, he's like in front of the kicker. Like, when I was watching that first time, I thought the pass initially was forward, and then he was kind of level, but the TMO had it the other way around. So either way, the try was chalked off.
What was strange about that was it wasn't so much was he in front, it was more because the try was given, is there enough evidence to say conclusively that he was in front, and there wasn't. I mean, he might have been, but it wasn't conclusive, so that was odd. I was 100% expecting that to be a try.
I could kind of justify it in my mind that I thought the initial pass was forward, so I kind of thought justice had been done. But like, as you say, if the referee gives the on-field decision try, then you need to have conclusive evidence to overturn it, which is maybe the...
I guess I'll give him one out. The angle we saw on TV was like from behind, wasn't it? I wonder if they had a more side-on angle that did look more obvious. But supposedly we're meant to see those angles on TV. But I don't know.
Now, the other one, which is maybe the more contentious one, is Hamish Watson with his tackle on LaRue again. When I saw that one again, just watching it once, and then when they showed it once on the replay, my initial reaction was, "Oh, he's got him a bit. He's got him a bit high. He's landed not too bad. Like, that could go a card. That could go penalty only." I'm kind of fine with that. Obviously, I don't like to see cards doled out. And then when I've gone back and watched it after the fact, it kind of looks worse the more that I watch it. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, in a domestic game in the English Premiership, the TMO would call that back and say, legs beyond the horizontal, landing, shoulder, neck, minimum yellow card. Yeah, amazed. I think red card would have been unlucky. I think yellow card would have been, correct. That could have mucked the Lions up. It might not, but another slice of luck for sure.
Now, there's been, I don't know how much of this is conspiracy theories, but the idea that Warren Gatland kind of having a wee moan about the fact that the TMO was South African prior to the kickoff, planting that seed of doubt in Jonker's mind about what he's going to call or not. Do you think there's any reality to that? I mean, obviously they are human, so they are susceptible to outside influences.
First of all, pretty clever from Gatland, to be honest. He knew what he was doing. If you're the South African TMO, you're going to be feeling a bit awkward because you're not really meant to be there. There's nothing he could have done because they didn't have anyone else. So maybe he felt a little bit of pressure just not to ruin the game. It would explain the calls. So maybe I think there's a fair bit.
Yeah. I think we have seen it before.
I doubt there'll be a.
You go.
I doubt there'll be a South African TMO next match though. Yeah.
It did seem like a bizarre appointment. I don't know. I mean, maybe with the pandemic, they're kind of limited in who they've got on hand to do this kind of thing. But yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seemed a bizarre call. For the Lions, though, who have you got as kind of your standout performers? I mean, everyone is kind of lauding Laws, and Itoje got man of the match, and Alan Wynn's return from injury woes not that long ago has been, a great story in itself.
Okay, so you mentioned all the obvious ones, which I would have mentioned. I'll go for another one then. I thought Conan was brilliant. Just consistently strong carries, which the Lions were struggling with in the first half. I thought he was very solid, kick returns, all that sort of thing. He might get swapped out for, say, Faletau. I really hope he doesn't. Because I thought he was like one of those solid guys like Alan Wynne who kind of clawed them back into it. So let's go Conan because you stole all the obvious ones.
Put you under pressure. He's an interesting one because Gatland in the press conference didn't kind of heap praise on him, but just said that he didn't do anything wrong. So I'm not sure if that's kind of high praise and that most guys during a game will make some kind of error, but Gatland basically just said he didn't do anything wrong. So I'm not sure if that...
Considering so many Lions did do stuff wrong, then maybe it is praise.
Any guys you think are under particular pressure to retain their spots?
Yeah, loads. I literally just made a list of that.
Okay,
I
let's
think,
go.
yeah, sure. The guys I think are going to retain their spots and under no pressure aren't many, but Furlong at tight head, Atoji and Allen win second row, Laws number 6, Bigger at 10, I think, and then I think Conan and Van der Merwe should be, but I don't know if they are. But then the guys who I think are definitely in danger are Sutherland, Cowan-Dickey, Curry, Price, Henshaw, Daly, Anthony Watson and Hogg. When I did my team in my last video, I only swapped out a few just because I wanted to keep the continuity, give them another go, because surely they're going to get better. But there's going to be a lot of sleepless nights in that Lions camp because they know there could be huge changes if there's plenty of reasons to change people. Whether that's the right thing is another question.
Daly was definitely one that I had on my list as well. Missed a few tackles defensively, didn't really do much ball in hand. Like missed a shot at goal. Who do you think they bring in if they do make the call to give him the chop?
Yeah, I mean, I said before the game that Daly and some of the guys there were kind of set up to run the ball, which they tried to do. But because it didn't work, it kind of negated why he was there in a way. Then when you add in the mistakes he made and the fact he couldn't make any dents physically when he did try and run the ball direct, I'd be surprised if he didn't make way. He could retain his place on the bench because he does cover centres and
many positions. That's right.
back three. So I think he's obvious potentially to go out. I think that Gatland may well go for Farrell in at 12 and go for a real kicking barrage and pin them back because it works so well and move Henshaw out to 13. Or if he wants to keep Henshaw at 12, I think Harris is the obvious call to come in as a more solid 13. So I've just got a feeling they're going to see the joy they had with the kicking. When they pinned the South Africans in their own half, they didn't want to play their way out. So I could see that happening, and then maybe Daly might actually sneak back in on the bench because Farrell's not there. But it's going to be interesting to see which way they go.
One of the things Nienaber said after the game was that he was, the things he was most disappointed about was their ability to kind of take high balls, and it did seem kind of uncharacteristic, like how many errors there were. Can we see the Boks being as error-ridden as that 2 weeks in a row?
I don't think so. Part of the reason I think it worked so well for the Lions in the second half is their kicks were really good. Price, who I hope does keep his place, he may not, his kicks were on the money. With the length, the height and the length, so the chaser arrives just at the right time with forward momentum. Then you can get up and tip it back. So I kind of guess it's more of a question, are the Lions' kicks going to be as good as they were? We'll see. We'll see if they put in more kicking, and maybe someone like Liam Williams might even come in for, say, an Anthony Watson, or Adams might come in as well, and they might really try and pepper the Boks with those high balls again.
It's an interesting one with the Boks. Obviously, yeah, they did make more errors than usual. They didn't get the ball out wide as much as they could. You mentioned the fact that the bomb squad didn't make the impact we predicted it would have. It was interesting because people were kind of panning the choices of, Oxenche, Bonambi and Trevor and Yekane as the starting front row, but they were actually the ones to put the Lions guys under pressure. It was when the bomb squad came on, and actually Mako, when he came on, had a pretty solid effort for the Lions, I thought. He's a guy who seemed to be out of form and maybe lucky to be on the tour. First game was a bit sketchy in the build-up games, but he's coming along pretty nicely.
Yeah, I mean he's been scrummaging in the English Championship, the second tier division, which can't help. And he was getting better throughout the warm-up games, that's for sure. And when he came, I mean, it was just such a huge game for him. If he'd come on and conceded scrum penalties, that could be his England career over. And it was massive. I reckon it was massive. And he just locked out and he said, I'm not moving. The first couple of scrums, they weren't trying to push the box back. They were just holding them dead square. And then, like the last couple of scrums, they went for it and actually won. I think Mako won a penalty. So it was clever. It was clever. He didn't overdo it to start with, and he just got himself into the game. So yeah, hats off to him. Really impressive under pressure.
Do you think if Wyn Jones is back fit that he gets the starting gig and it's Mako on the bench and Sutherland is the kind of man left out?
That's what I think. If they wanted Wyn Jones to start, and unfortunately Sutherland played the half where they struggled, which doesn't help.
Yeah.
And because Mako played so well off the bench, who do you drop? So it's pretty harsh on whoever misses out. It all depends how fit Wyn Jones is, and they kind of did, say that it wasn't too bad before. So I think you're right.
I'm not sure the Springboks would make wholesale changes. That squad is pretty familiar to the one that went to a World Cup, so I think the talent is still there. Obviously, they're without Dwayne Vermeulen. We were talking a little bit about Quacker Smith and Jasper Wiese before we came online. He may be one of the guys who can make his way into the 23. I mean, you mentioned, because you've seen him in the Premiership probably more than I have, that he's a pretty big fella, which is maybe more like for like with what we see with Vermeulen. Does he have Vermeulen's also got the skills as well. He's great under a high ball. He's great at getting a pilfer. Is Wiese kind of a bit one-dimensional, or has he got a bit more to his game?
We'll find out. I think probably international level, he probably should stick to his strengths and just truck it up, to be honest. Because, the Springboks need it. I think they need it. Especially, they haven't put Kurt Sear in there, have they? Which is a bit odd. So they're kind of limited. I think Quagga Smith will drop out, and I think they will go for Wiese and just get him to run hard and straight and do what he's best at, to be honest.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if LaRue is fit. I haven't seen any updates on him after that tackle from Watson. Obviously, he went off and didn't come back on. They've got a young guy, Nafale Fassi, who is a proper dynamic attacking player. Probably doesn't have the experience or maybe the nous that Billy LaRue's got, but again, that kind of comes with experience. He did get blooded in the build-up, but he's not had a lot of international experience. I can't see the Boks changing it up a heck of a lot, to be honest, but they do need to get the ball wide, I think, a little bit more than they did, because you can't have Colby having as many knock-ons as he's got runs. That's just, it's a waste. It's a waste of.
Just imagine if you had Colby on one wing, Fassi on the other wing, and you actually had a game plan to whiz the ball once you've softened the opposition up. And that's scary, isn't it? But I don't think after that performance they're going to be swapping anything out particularly. LaRue's so important to the way they play. He really is that general at the back. So
yeah, he's one of the guys. Like, I've noticed. I mean, every fan base has kind of got their guys. Like, there's some guys that can kind of do no wrong, and there's some guys who just always cop copious amounts of flack, no matter kind of what they do. LaRue seems to be one of those guys who's more on the copping flack end of things, but maybe because he doesn't necessarily do the kind of flashy, the flashy stuff, but he is kind of marshalling the guys at the back.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got a bit of I'm a bit less of a fan of his, just because, not because of what he does internationally, but when he played in the English Premiership, he wasn't quite on it. Some days he didn't fancy it.
Right.
And he was, chucking balls around all over the place, making mistakes all over the place. And it didn't look like his heart was in it sometimes. So I think I'm warming back up to him, let's say.
Yeah, I think even, like, from what limited amount I saw him, because he was at Wasps, wasn't he? I'm pretty sure I saw him play, and I thought, same deal. He looked a bit average from what I've seen. But I've seen a few guys go, like, didn't Sopwanga go to Wasps as well and looked pretty average there as well at times?
Yeah, so. It's where great Southern Hemisphere players go to lose their form, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one.
But they're a great team, so I don't know why.
Yeah, no, it is a bizarre one. Um, I guess we can open it up to some of the guys to see if they've got any questions or comments for us. I will see if I can have a look at some of the Springboks ones, and maybe I'll give you the Lions ones. That's probably a fair split. Joseph is asking, how bad is the replacement Springboks 9? So the guy they had on the bench at the weekend is Herschel Yankees. He's tended not to get a lot of minutes under Rassie Erasmus. He has come on as a super sub a few times. He scored a pretty famous try in Wellington to end up drawing the game against the All Blacks. But yeah, he's a different player. He doesn't box kick as much as Faf de Klerk, which seems to be, the directions they're looking for. He's more of a zippy kind of distributor than necessarily like, a Conor Murray or Faf de Klerk kind of box kicking tactical general. So yeah, I don't think he's bad. He's just he's maybe not what they are looking for. They've also got Kobus Reinach, but he seems to be kind of the third guy in the pecking order for whatever reason.
He's the man I'd go for, Reinach all day. Again, it's because I've seen him in the English Premiership, and he was a player that put it in every game. Plus, he was box office with his breaks. I think the question more is why take off de Klerk at all? He was possibly their best player, and he looked fine. So I just wouldn't take him off.
They used to do that. They used to just play him pretty much 80 minutes unless they were comfortably in front where they were not going to lose the game. They pretty much used to always play him.
I think they panicked. I think they panicked a bit with their subs there, taking off. They took Pollard off as well, right?
Yep, they put Pollard off. I think he had a bit of cramp. That might have been have been part of the reason. Right, I've got one for you from Alfie. He asks, will Marcus Smith play in any of the tests for the Lions?
I don't think so. I'd like him to, because I think he is unbelievable. He's probably the most talented 10 there, but he's got virtually no experience, has he? And it sounds like Russell might actually be around for the second, even the third test. So if that's the case, then I seriously doubt it. But it would be great. I mean, let's say, I'm not saying this is going to happen. Let's say the Lions win the second test. They go 2-0 up. Absolutely put him on the bench or something, for sure. But yeah, odds are probably not.
Yeah. I think Gatlin said when he initially called him up, like Gatlin has this kind of spiel that he makes about how everyone is a legitimate chance for every game, and that, even if you're not named in the first test, you still could make the second test. And he's got stats about, this guy didn't play in the first test, ended up playing the second test. But as soon as they called up Marcus Smith, he pretty much said this is going to be a good learning experience for him as a young guy. He's had a big year. Like, he didn't openly say he's not going to get a test, but he said everything except that. So, yeah, I think it'd be a big call. Charles asks, Lut to start next week. Again, I think that probably depends on his fitness. Obviously, they started Mostert and Etzebeth at the weekend. I thought Etzebeth was kind of at his monstrous best. Diaka is probably a bit more, in terms of pure talent, he's probably got more talent and ball handling skills than Mostert. Or Mostert's got a bigger engine on him. He's going to get through a lot more defensive work. But I think they would start Diaka, but it probably just depends if he's fit.
Yeah,
so
it could happen. Etzebeth, to be fair, Etzebeth has been great in the was it South Africa A game. I thought he was horrible right from the off. Plenty of comments I've had saying he kind of lives offside, he tackles high, blah blah blah. But if you get away with it, so effective. He lives on the edge, and just horrible to play against.
Speaking of living on the edge, actually, I forgot to mention another one that kind of was getting people up in arms was Etoje's turnover on the on their own kind of on goal line when when he wasn't supporting his body weight. There was I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter, highlighting his knees, leaning on. I think it's Khaleesi who's there. Did you have any particular thoughts on that one, or is that just a rugby thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many turnovers where you can say that. Some, like, the refs have periods where they're told to be really hot on it. I think they've kind of been told to look at some other things at the moment, so maybe they've just kind of gone off that one a little bit. But it's so hard to get in a jackling position where the only thing you're touching is the ball and you're supporting your own body weight. If someone's in the way, you probably do put your knees on them just to stabilise, or you lean on the ball, or you kind of touch your hand on the floor momentarily. So the refs are kind of making judgment calls, because otherwise, so you could call it, but I don't think it was a terrible call.
Yeah.
But
They are making that decision in an instant, really. I mean, we've got time to have a look at the photo, and if you go a few frames before, you can actually see Khaleesi's elbows on the ball, not releasing it. And I think if you go a few frames before, Curry's done something illegal, and if you go a few frames before that, I think Mostert's like, you can get crazy about it. I mean, obviously you want the refs to get it right, but I'm not sure that one was
I mean, it's
terribly
more kind of
egregious.
No, it's getting in a good position. If you get in a great position and kind of your elbow goes on the floor a bit and then comes back up, I'd say fine. But if you kind of just dive on the ball, slump on the ball, and don't take any care on your position, then I think that's more of a obvious call. Yeah.
Xavier says, will we see Adams, or has he completely fallen out of favour? He was all in hot try-scoring form in the build-up, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's a bit harsh. I mean, he had a baby. His wife had a baby, or girlfriend, I'm not sure which. Yeah. And, that's going to affect you a little bit. And then the game he played straight away after that, I think, he had his worst game of the tour. So it was just bad timing, really. So they didn't want to risk him. I think he had a niggle as well. So it was just bad timing. But, I mean, he could easily come in. For this game. Like I said, Watson maybe. Could even come in for Van der Merwe or on the bench. So he deserves to be in one of the tests, definitely.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. He does seem to have... I don't know, like Gatland talked up his emotional state a lot in the press conference as well, which is not something you hear guys talking about a lot. They're quite happy to talk about injuries all day long, but they don't usually talk about the guys' kind of emotional state. And he almost said it was like an easy decision to not play him because he wasn't in the right kind of frame of mind. So, yeah, it must be just having a big effect on him, I would say. Stephen, who has just dropped €5 into the chat, thank you for that, Stephen, has asked, is leaving Sexton behind looking a little unclever?
I don't know. If they're playing a kicking game, yeah, maybe. I think Smith's an unbelievable player. I think Russell is an unbelievable player. But they're not the players you'd stick in just to ping the corners all day long. I hope not. But even Ireland haven't taken him, given him a rest, and the Lions haven't taken him. So he's, not been a great summer for him, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think they wanted to give... I know they give some of the guys a rest. I think, didn't they give Kean Healy a bit of a break? I don't know, some of those guys are getting a bit...
Yeah, I mean, it was a planned rest, but apparently he was fit and everything. And
right.
To get Marcus Smith called up instead of him is pretty hard to swallow, certainly.
Experience in the bank. Adrian has a question, which is a very simple one. Who's going to win the next test? Now, I should say I predicted the Springboks by 3 for the first one, so take my predictions with an absolute grain of salt. But who have you got for the next test? Do you see the Lions closing it out, or do you think the Springboks are going to bounce back?
It could be either, but I'd probably go for the Lions if you push me. I just feel they've got the momentum, and the Springboks are just panicking a touch. Yeah, I'll go for the Lions. If the Lions can get that parity at least in the kicking and the set piece again, and put together some of their handling and offloading, it could be really tasty. I just don't see the Springboks, changing their game. They'd have to play their A game unbelievably, which could happen. but I'll just tip it towards the Lions, I'd say.
I'm going to go Springboks, mainly because in my heart of hearts, I want desperately to see a third game which is meaningful. So that's more with my heart than with my head. But I do think the Springboks' number of errors was uncharacteristic. I can't see it 2 weeks running. They had a really good first half. It's just that second half. If it is indeed fitness, that's probably not the kind of thing you can fix in a week, but you can certainly reduce the kind of the errors under the high ball and that kind of stuff. So yeah, fingers crossed.
It just should it should be a better game. The quality of the game, I'm really looking forward to it. Should be much better.
Did you enjoy the first game? I mean, I saw most people I'm generally a guy who will take a box kicking up and under fest, which is a 3-point or 5-point margin at the end, compared to the All Blacks over Tonga, which has got 1 million tries and is 100 points. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be on the edge of my seat, at the 80th minute. But I did see some people saying, geez, this was boring. I turned off after 20 minutes.
It's never boring because there's so much going on, but it wasn't my favourite game of rugby for sure, just because there were so many poor mistakes from both sides. If it's just a kicking fest, but the quality is super high and the intensity is super high, that's fine. I'm fine with that. It's just, it was like, yeah, you guys are slightly below Lions test match quality. So it wasn't a great one. So I'm hoping for the second one to be an absolute stormer.
True. Herman asks, do we think the All Blacks coaches will be taking notes, and what do they think they will be taking from their game plan? I definitely think the All Blacks coaches will be taking notes. Undoubtedly, they've got the Springboks lined up for the Rugby Championship in a fairly short time. Whether the All Blacks go ahead and change their game plan to play the Springboks, I think they would be more likely to pick. Because they love picking fullbacks on the wing. I would say they would continue picking fullbacks on the wing if they were going to play the Springboks, because you absolutely want to be secure under any aerial balls coming your way. But I don't think that's anything new for them. The All Blacks, they're kind of the opposite of our cricket team. Our cricket team has to go and do research on other teams to beat them because we generally don't have the players to just go and play our own way and beat them. Whereas the rugby team, I think, tends to mostly play their own way and then adapt as needed. They did adapt a little bit after a couple of losses against Ireland. That's when they really started wanting to play a fly half at fullback. But yeah, apart from that, I can't see the All Blacks making drastic changes. Anyway,
the All Blacks are just trying to figure out their best team, aren't they? That's all they're really trying to do at the moment.
And Ian Foster's trying to get his contract renewed, I think, is the main thing. He's off contract at the end of the year, so he needs to win.
Well, if you keep playing Tonga, and you'll be fine, won't you?
That's right. Suk says, pick a fullback for the Lions next week, and thank you for the €2. That's appreciated. Who's your call, Rich?
You go first. You go first. That's a horrible question.
I don't think it was the kind of game that allowed Hogg to really... I mean, he had one big run initially and then got immediately turned over in that first half. I think he put in one really nice punt because he's got that big old boot of his. For consistency's sake, I would keep him. But if you wanted to put Liam Williams there, I'm not going to be crying about it because he's equally, very secure. But for consistency's sake, I'll say Hogg.
Let's go with that.
Okay, nice. What else? We'll go a couple more. Jezza also says we should stick with Hogg, so that's good. What have we got? Everybody seems to say we should stick with Hogg. Alan Wynne Jones, the lock who can't win the line-out, says Checo. I don't actually remember the stats on... I think it was Laws who was the main line-out guy for the Lions. Should they be playing Alan Wynne if he's not a big old line-out jumper? Those 36-year-old knees, are they a bit beyond being lifted that high in the air?
I didn't notice that enough, to be honest, to make a comment on that. Like you said, I don't think he's their absolute go-to guy because... Laws is he's really tall and he's a bit lighter and he's a bit easier to lift, as is a Toje. So I wouldn't expect him to be the number one guy anyway, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone's got their role. If you're going to play Laws, like you say, you've got that extra line-out option kind of for free in the back row. A lot of teams have a back row as their main line-out guy these days. I think the French do it. They don't lift their locks because they like playing big old locks. And I mentioned to you before we started that I looked at the updated tackle stats, and Alan Wynne was the top tackler for the Lions. So everyone's got their role, and as long as they're doing what the coaches want, I think that'll keep them in the teams. We did answer, did the Lions deserve a card, with pretty much yes. I'll go with one, seeing as I did notice that when you said one of the guys you thought was maybe under a little bit of pressure was Curry. What do you think he needs to do more? And if you're going to replace him, do you put in the Mish or?
That was funny actually in a way, because when I did my player review of that game, you could literally say the same thing for Curry and Hamish Watson. They're both unbelievable. They're actually quite similar players. High energy, muscular, all action, over enthusiastic in this game, and they both made some really bad errors, but they both did some really good stuff. So, sure, put Mish in, not a problem, or keep Curry in, not a problem. I think they're the two anyway. So, take your pick.
It always amazes me that there seems to be such a battle between Lions supporters, whether you're a Mish or a Curry man, but they're both so good. And like you say, they're both so similar. It's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, man. It doesn't really make a huge difference to me. But then I'm kind of sitting here as a New Zealander saying this, so I don't really mind. I'm happy to see either of them. Kakinen asks, and he also drops €2, so cheers for that. Start Murray and bench Price or Davis? ?
I think he might.
He's a Munster fan, by the way. I know. Kakinen,
oh, is he?
So be careful the way you answer this question.
All right, well, I started off quite well. I think it might happen. I think Gatland might well do it. But then again, I was quite impressed with Price, actually. High pressure game. Don't think he melted and he got better, and his kicks were brilliant. So, I mean, what would you bring Murray in for? That's what I'd say. Is it maybe some leadership, a cooler head when things are going wrong? That's possible. Do you bring him in to kick better than Price? Well, not based on that game, but it still could happen. If they're going, let's say they're going for a bigger 10, Farrell 12, Murray at 9, it makes tactical sense, doesn't it? Old heads pinning them back. Yeah,
for sure.
So, yeah, could do.
Could do, but you'd be happy to keep Price. I think Price has been he's been pretty good all tour. I think he's looked the business. He's one of the guys who got a little bit of stick on his selection, although the question of 9 prior to the Lions tour was always a bit of a hard one, because you don't have a DuPont like an outstanding, clearly the best guy, but no, Price has looked the business, I've thought, as well. Right. We'll go a couple more, and then I think we will call it quits, because I think you need to get to bed.
Yeah, why not?
At some point soon. Adrian, a second one from him. I've just missed it because the comments have gone faster. He has said, change the TMO.
I think they will.
Yes,
I think they
They
will.
will as well. I don't think they're all good. Who is it? O'Keefe, who's the ref for this one?
I haven't looked.
Yeah, I think it might be Ben O'Keefe. Yeah, he's been under a bit of pressure on his own recently, because he's the guy who called Marika Korobetti in the last Aussie game to get a red card early on against the French. So, yeah, he may... whoever's going to ref these games is going to be under a heap of pressure, and we will see every decision probably put under the microscope. That's just kind of the nature of the business. Right, last one. Here we go. Do you think we will see Finn Russell?
I don't know. I think he wants to stay with Bigger and Farrell. I think that makes sense for his game plan. If they win the second test, then sure, why not? Because you might as well play everyone who deserves to play. If you lose the second test, then it depends if they want to change their game. And he has got a an Achilles strain. You know, it's not like it's a bit of a risk to throw him in. I'd go for more likely no, but 40% yes.
He's not been not chosen because of his form, eh? It's just he's just not fit. You know,
I think he would have been in. I think he'd have been in the 23 if he had been fit all the way through.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy who can certainly add something special. I don't know. We'll see how things go. We've still got 2 tests to go. As I said, selfishly, I'm absolutely hoping for a Springboks win in the second game, so we get that kind of blockbuster third game. I mean, I remember 2005 when the All Blacks had it sewed up after 2 games. You kind of don't get that same.
No.
The same drama, the last Aussie tour went it down to the last game. The All Blacks against the Lions are now our most recent tour when it got the draw. There's just something about that third game. So, yeah, fingers crossed we get that one. But,
Maybe.
Cheers, Rich, for the
Thank
chat.
you.
We got there eventually, despite
much.
the initial technical difficulties. But, we should probably do this again maybe after game number 2. At some point,
yeah, let's do it.
If you've got time,
let's do it after the Lions have wrapped it up, shall we?
Okay. All right, guys. Cheers for coming along. If you guys are in Europe, you're probably heading off to bed. If you're down my way, you probably need to go hang the clothes up like I do. So, you guys all take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you guys again next week.